Hello, everyone, and welcome to 119th SPRI Policy event. We are live from the O1 studio at the Sharif Policy Research Institute from the Sharif University of Technology from Tehran, Iran. I am Amir Shahraini, your host and moderator for this session. Just to give a brief introduction of myself, I'm the director of the International Department at the Sharif Policy Research Institute. I'm also a researcher in the field of innovation and AI policy at the Cultural Governance think tank, which is one of a few think tanks structured within the Sharif Policy Research Institute's network. At the Cultural Governance think tank, which is pronounced as CGTT, we focus on the crucial role of cultural and creative industries in the social and economic development of societies. At CGTT, we analyze the macro trends in creative industries and provide policy recommendations for both private and public sectors. We also offer different development strategies on the export of creative industries to businesses. We have worked in the field of creative industries in the think tank for the past few years, and today we are honored to have the second panel of a weekly series of international events on AI and creative industries. This event is organized by the Sharif Policy Research Institute. Sharif Policy Research Institute was founded in 2008 as an affiliated research institute to the Sharif University of Technology, which is the top-ranked university in Iran. So, as you have seen in the poster and our announcement for today's event, the title of today's panel is AI and the animation industry. We're here to explore one of the most exciting intersections of technology and creativity. The animation industry has always been at the forefront of innovation, bringing stories to life through imaginations and technical skills. Today, we're witnessing a transformative shift in how animations are created, produced, and even experienced by users. So, in this panel, we will discuss how AI is changing the animation landscape, and we will dive into the benefits and the challenges of AI driven tools and how they impact the roles of animators and artists. And we will also be discussing about what this means for the future of this industry. Our panelists will bring their valuable experiences from both AI and animation sectors. They will share their insights on how these technologies are being used today and what we can expect in the years to come. So, whether you're a professional in the industry or just a student, or even just fascinated the possibilities in the a- by the possibilities of AI in animation, this discussion will provide valuable perspectives on the evolving synergy between technology and art. So, by delving into the key topics of the panel, we hope to provide a comprehensive overview of the current landscape and future possibilities. On this panel, we will focus on bringing up some policy recommendations for developing countries and also developing companies in this field. But before we enter the discussion, let me tell you that today we have these five main topics to discuss. We will be talking about the role of AI in shaping the future of the animation industry. Then we will be talking about the ethical and legal considerations in AI-driven animations. And we will be talking about collaborations and strategic partnerships in the AI and the animation ecosystem. The fourth topic of the session will be about the cutting edge AI technologies and their impact on animation design and development. And the last one will be about the global trends and the future scenarios in animation integrated, AI animation, AI integrated animations. So let me tell you that if you have any questions during the session, just feel free to write them down in the chat box. We will read them all and select a few to ask them at the end of the session in the Q&A part. So today we are honored to have four outstanding panelists for this event. I would like to introduce them and welcome. Mohammad Hamedani, who is animation producer and CEO of the Skyframe studio from Iran. Rafael Gabriel Costa Garrido, who is a senior creative and AI artist and also AI ambassador for Monks from Argentina. Jeff Provine, who is the executive director of Oklahoma Comics Foundation from the USA. And Issa Motlib, who is the founder of AI Skills Academy from the UK. I would like to welcome you all and thank you so much for joining us here today on this panel discussion. I want to start with you, Issa. If you can hear me, could you please go ahead and introduce yourself and just briefly give us an introduction to the topic, if you're in the chat, Issa. We can hear you. Could you please turn your microphone on?
I think you can hear me now, right?
Yes, yes, that's cool. Go
Thank you,
ahead.
thank you very much. Really, a real pleasure to be on this panel today. Sure. So my name is Issa. I run a new startup. It's been about 8 months, 9 months, running this startup, and our focus has largely been on understanding the future of working skills and how it impacts those who are going to be most impacted in the way AI will impact jobs. I know one of our fellow panelists, Regeko, who we did a podcast a couple of months ago, so we are acquainted in that regard. It's nice to join a panel, and it's nice, firstly, nice to see these sort of panels typically led by Western countries, and it's nice to see a country that's not from the West leading on such an important topic. But the nature of my thoughts in this is coming from two angles. Number one is the people, and number two, it's the technology behind it. When it comes to the way AI is shaping the animation industry, I had a sort of business relationship with a company about 4 or 5 years ago in the animation industry, and what we were doing, we were promoting the roles that you can have in the animation industry, whether it be VFX, all the sort of different types. So you've got and basically recruiting for them. And one of the things I noticed then that when I was reflecting upon this particular conversation is the autonomy of how or the operating side of somebody who works in the animation industry will has and will rapidly change. What I mean by that is the way in which the way in which content is produced now, especially now with um, the dawn of Gen AI, has allowed individuals to become a bit more skilled in how they do things, but also work it differently in terms of how they do things as well. And they are able to execute tasks much more efficiently, productively. And what that does is that limit or reduces the amount of time that it needs to produce content. It increases productivity, but it also increases workflow for an individual. But how it's different is that individuals have had to reskill and reshape themselves. And you may notice that a lot of people are learning new platforms, and this is going to be the case. The skills that you had yesterday and the skills you had last week will no longer be the skills that you will need for the next 12 to 24 months. And in 12 to 24 months, with how technology is rapidly changing, it will change again. Why that's important is that we're now at a much more fast-paced environment for the animation industry, and for that fast-paced environment, you need the right talent in place, you need the right skills in place, you also need the right technology in place. For those individuals who are watching this and thinking, "Well, how can I get more involved in this?" The starting point really starts at management side in terms of where they want to be in 12 to 24 months. And when we talk to some of our companies in this space, we speak to them about how they envision themselves and what they want to get out of it. Because the biggest thing behind Gen AI in the animation industry is the fear of loss of jobs, the fear of loss of talent, etc. But if you rethink the way in which you look at how AI can be implemented within companies and restructure around how it can increase efficiencies and productivity, you can then build a stronger model with the right talent in place. Never go from it from an angle of we need to reduce costs, because the moment you do that, you're going to set yourself up for failure. And I think what will happen is that you'll then, when those companies that have been doing that, have had to rebalance their talent pipeline, because it's not just a case of you losing talent in one area. There's actually an economic value of individuals being reskilled to apply AI in a new area of their business. So I'll kind of go further into the conversation, but that's just sort of an intro or an insight into it.
Thank you so much, Isa. We will be talking about later in the panel. So I want to ask you, Rafael, if you can hear me, could you please go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us your vision on the topic?
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Perfect, perfect. So first of all, thank you for having me. My name is Rafael Gabriel Costa, although people know me as Ragaco. I'm a senior creative AI artist and AI ambassador for Monks, formerly known as Media Monks, one of the largest production agencies in the world. And it's interesting the approach I took with Isa a long time ago, and we talk about this, the impact on jobs and industry, and specifically creativity and animation, particularly. I believe that there's something very interesting happening with this tool that most people are not being aware of. That is actually democratizing the access of people to these industries. I have a lot of friends who were not video editors, were not designers, were not animators, but now because they can prompt an AI, they can start creating visuals and they can start creating images. They're starting to, jump into the pool, if you want to put it that way, and start creating stuff. And suddenly, a lot of people that were not creative are now jumping into the field of creativity. And me as a creative, I think that's beautiful. Of course, there's gonna be a change of pace in works, like Isa said. The skills that you need are not going to be necessarily the same skills that you need in the past. However, I do think that the human factor behind the AI is always valuable. Like an AI can design anything you want, but if you're not a designer, if you don't understand design basics or concepts, you will never get something nice. AI can make anything you want, but it can give you good taste. And I think that's where skills apply. A lot of people ask me about the animations I have done, the short movies I have done with AI, and they are amazed when they say, I always say, like, oh, it took me 48 hours to build something like this, like a short movie. And when I think about it, it's like, it's not 48 hours, it's like more than 10 years of studying art direction, cinematography, color design, advertising, and gave me a lot of skills. So I think the skills from the past will still be valuable, but I do think that we're now needing a new skill sets to understand the tools. Like, it happens to a lot of people that if you go to Google and you look up AI for making images, you're going to find thousands of websites with thousands of tools and applications, and most of them just want to grab your money and they don't want to teach you how to do the right thing. So I think there's also this moment right now where learning about the right tools and the right area of where you want to build with AI, specifically if it comes with animation, um, it can help you build on top of that, because AI built on top of what is already been done. So if you know the basics today, you will know the basics tomorrow. I don't think we are there yet in terms of, like, let's say we want to make a Pixar movie animated 100%. I don't think we're there, but I think we are 75, 80% there. I think you can get something really interesting with animation. um that it happens to me when I'm making a short movie. Sometimes I can make a linear story, so I try to rely on the voiceover or the music that will guide the story, and the visuals are just a complement to it. So it's not visual oriented, but I think we're getting there. So I think if you are in the animation industry, or if you're not but you like animation, you're an interesting point in history, because I think you can start soon. You will be able to build your own movies and your own stuff at home without a supercomputer, without a lot of knowledge, and I think that's really powerful. So yeah, that's my take.
Thank you so much, Rafael, for your fruitful insights. We will be talking about it later. So, Mohammed, I want to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us your vision if you can hear me.
Yeah, hello everybody. Good evening to almost people. I don't know how is the time in Argentina right now, but yeah, but here is the evening. So glad to have you all, specifically the students of Sharif University. I wanted to introduce Sharif University for you guys. That is a proudly to talking with students of Sharif, because it's a one of the most powerful universities in Iran. But unfortunately, we are losing almost these guys after finishing, after graduated from the studying to the abroad. But by the way, talking with these guys also is very fascinating and very interesting for me. Um, I'm a producer of animation about 20 years, and managing director of Skyframe Animation Studio, which is one of the biggest one in Iran and in Middle East. And from tomorrow, you can watch our last feature animated film in all the American platforms, like because Lionsgate is distributing that film, which named Dolphin Boy. So about the um, jumping to the point, you were talking about the some tools that became very popular. In one approach, it is interesting for being accessible to creating images for everybody, but it reaches to some point that it's not valuable when everybody can make image that they want. So maybe image making is going to not being interesting for everybody, because it's not something um, um, you know um, specifically very unique, and it's not belong to the big companies and big productions to reaching out. So because of that, I think it needs some new point of view to using for big companies for expensive productions, to using AI as a specific tool, as a expensive, as a unique tool to making something new for people, to having their market. I'm a producer and I should look to the markets. So if we wanted to staying in this stage and wanted to have the market still, so we should use this kind of tools. The way that is not popular and is not easily accessible for all the people. By the way, in animation, we're using this kind of tools in our studio, just in creating some images, but it is not final images, because the creativity and uniqueness is not good enough. For example, we are when we're gonna do making some conceptual word, uh, we need some suggestion for making some offers for making a conceptual, for example, environment. But um, every time it's not gonna be a final picture, and it's not directly used in the production. But we can have several suggestions right now, and we should we should make a merge, a collection, and after that a merging in Photoshop, or maybe mixing with some new concepts to reaching to final concept. But for example, um, because I use as a user, not as a professional guy in AI tools, we can use for making video in the AI tools that is accessible in webs. But for example, characteristics of the character that is being made is not unique in several shots, so it's going to be changed. So still, we cannot use as a character maker from AI, even in motions. Um, Still, it's not been able to make some perfect motion and perfect animation, because using a body mechanic and organic movement is not being still available in AI tools. So our usage right now is being limited just to having some suggestion in making concepts, and we're using a lot from this stage, but not anymore. But we are looking a lot for specialists in AI, marketplace, and AI educational places, to finding some helps, finding some advice to using from the core of AI to adjusting and being familiar for animation needs to making more practical and usable in animation productions. So I kindly invite to everybody that has experience in this field to making collaboration to our further and future animations.
So much, Mohammed. I appreciate it. And Jeff, if you can hear me, could you please go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what you think about the topic?
Hello and good morning. It's just now 8 o'clock here a.m. It's our first day of classes too, so if there's any noise behind us, that's just our fall semester getting going. But in addition to my work as professor of English here at Oklahoma City Community College, I've been working with my nonprofit Oklahoma Comic Arts Foundation, and also serve as publisher for Okie Comics. So my perspective's a little bit adjacent here with graphic narrative and comics and things, but we're definitely seeing a lot of very similar artistic takes with what's going to be happening here. So from my perspective, I'm most interested in talking about what is the market going to look like. So as Raphael and Mohammed discussed a little bit with the democratization, anybody can create comics. It's going to go very much the same way that novels went here in the past 20 years or so, where previously, if you wanted to get something published, it was a major investment of tens of thousands of dollars, and you needed companies behind that. And now anybody could just throw a PDF online, and that's technically published. If you want a print copy, we have the technology. We can do pay for print, just individual copies. It's completely different than it was before, which we see more writers than ever, which is great. But then also we see the kind of major books at the top thinning out. So we'll see what happens to that publishing industry. In comics, we'll see this very quickly. Already people are using AI augmentation to speed up the process. We're very curious to see what happens with Colin Kaepernick. So if you haven't heard this story, he's an American football player who apparently has been trying to make comics and been running into gatekeepers, which I'm not sure what the background story there is, but they're trying to make it very exciting. So he's starting this company, Lumi, that is going to push forward with AI in comics, which has been very kind of vague on what exactly they're going to use AI for, which is unfortunate. I'm curious to see exactly what are they detailing. But if he's talking about what we're traditionally doing with imagery and AI, it's just skipping around the artist, which aren't the gatekeepers. It's the major publishers, right? Because it's a question of what comics do they see as an investment in this market. So we'll just have to see what happens as we get more and more comics out there. Are we going to support our artists and everybody can kind of get a piece of the pie, or is it just going to thin out to the point that we don't have DC and Marvel other than just kind of token image creation for future movies? So nobody knows, but it's exciting to think about.
So much, Jeff. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So let's enter the discussion by the first topic of this session, which is going to talk about the role of AI in shaping the future of the animation industry. As you all have mentioned, AI has changed every aspect in the creative industries, especially in the case of animation industry. It has revolutionized every little thing and every single procedure. So AI is revolutionizing this industry by streamlining production, reducing costs, and improving creativity. AI also helps with storytelling by generating content based on data analysis, making it high quality animations more accessible for smaller creators and smaller companies, as you guys have mentioned. So while AI does it all, it also raises questions about the balance between human creativity and automation, which is the center of the discussions everywhere. So we will be talking about this later. I want to start the first topic of this first question of this topic with Isa. by asking you about how do you think that has AI evolved in the animation industry over the past decade? What do you think?
Well, decade's a bit of a long period to use. I think the last few years is a good starting point. We have to understand that over the last 12 months, there's been a monumental shift in the technology that's been deployed by industry, and I think if you just kind of look at the bigger picture, we now know that it's no longer that futuristic concept. It's sort of something that's here. It's making an impact here, right and now. And in animation, what we do know is that it's transforming the way we create, we produce, we experience content, but it's also allowing the creator to go beyond what they are able to achieve in terms of the creative side of it, or the creation side of it. And that's important because giving the individuals the power to kind of unleash their creativity means that we're able to really widen the way in which it can have an impact within the kind of the industry itself. Bear in mind, whilst animation industry, we're talking about animation industry and kind of filmmaking, etc. It's also very very same concept is also very applicable to any other industry when we're talking about AI and its role there. Uh, you mentioned animation. You mentioned automation very briefly. And I think that's probably one of the most significant ways it's being or the animation industry is being impacted. Traditionally, you'll see sort of characters and the way they are made. It fits a script, and what's now able to happen is that you're able to expand the script, expand the creative input, but then reduce the time that you can execute the tasks at hand. And what that's down to is how AI tools are more powerful now. They do a lot of the heavy lifting. So, I mean, I've done a couple of podcasts and I've edited myself, and before it would take me probably around about an hour and a half, 2 hours to cut down all the content, separate them all, etc. Now I think it probably takes me about 5 minutes. So it just goes to show that a lot more power into the hands of those who are operating the kind of the operating creative process. One last thing I'd add, and I want to give some thoughts to the other panelists on this as well, is 10 years. You mentioned 10 years. In 10 years, we've had a new mobile phones have massively evolved. So imagine now, in right now, as we're speaking now, up until the next 10 years, how the evolution of AI will have an impact on the way we work and the way we operate and the future of skills and future work. That just gives you a flavor of how quickly things will move, but also how rapidly better things will become for a lot of operators. Again, we spoke on the job losses and the job creation side of it, but if we were to look at the fundamentals here, we're getting a better product in the end, and that's what's important.
Thank you so much. So, Rafael, what do you think about those most significant AI-driven innovations currently being implemented in the animation design and development?
I think the biggest advances that we're having right now are regarding video and image fidelity. I've seen a lot of advancements on that field, which is something that in the past, and if you probably seen AI um, a year, 2 years ago, it has this very kind of psychedelic thing, like all the images morph, they all distorted. You couldn't have consistency. I think, for example, Runway, which is one of the AI video and animation tools out there, their last update, Gen 3, the same with Luma, Dream Machine, and Sora from OpenAI that hasn't been released yet. They are all tapping on this consistency where the image and the video keeps consistent. You don't have that morphing effect. You don't have that losing of quality. And I think that's going to be the game changer of AI in the upcoming months. because eventually, I mean, I think there's something interesting about the glitching and the deformity of AI when it morphs. I think as a creative resource, I always think back in the day when glitches appear, probably all of you here, if you like videos, you probably saw one video like 10 years ago that have glitches effects, and you were like, what is this, what's going on? And then it became like a video resource. Now every video creator that's starting up, they will use glitches as transitions. I haven't seen a transition being made with AI yet as a visual communication tool. I think there's something interesting about the forming and the morphing and the morphing of the images that AI proposes. But I think the industry it's moving forward fidelity, and how can we keep fidelity on tools? So I think the biggest change that we're going to see in the next couple of months, and we're already seeing it, is that we're not going to be able to tell the difference between something that was made by humans and it was made by AI. And it's already happening on the internet, especially with social media and news and everything with the fake news and stuff. Sometimes you don't know what you're looking at. But I think at the same time, for animation, that is very strong, because when you're building an animation, you're building a story. Consistency is everything. If you lose consistency, your story just fell out short. So I think that's going to be the strongest point for me in the upcoming months for tools to come.
Thank you so much, Rafael. So Mohammed and I had a discussion a few days ago about the limitations and potential risks of AI in his work, and I would like to ask you the question about the potential risk, Mohammed. What do you think? What are those potential risks and limitations of relying heavily on AI in the case of animation production, since you're an animation producer?
Yeah. In one word, we can say similarities. But we have lots of our guys that are returning from big companies, for example, in Canada and USA, to Iran because of this AI tools that are taking the chairs, and so the employers are coming back to home. So it's maybe a kind of critical things from AI to our guys. But another limitation is how can I say, intellectual property of the creators. Sometimes you can see something that is very similar to some famous artist, but it's not belong to him, and it's just made by AI. From a professional point of view, you can recognize that it's been done with AI, but for the users and for customers, it's not been clear. And also another limitation is that I can say that we are going very fast, quickly to the apocalyptic world, because these kind of devices can make the best suggestion for you as a unique content they can provide for you, and it would be very interesting for users. So after that, I think it's out of our discussion, but it's a bit strange and scary, because it can feed you the content specifically that you need and you want. So it can hypnotize, it can make you as a slave for you, for the devices. So let me ignore this subject and coming back to animation. About the limitation, I can say that creativity still, I cannot imagine that a new thing can be created with AI. But about millions and thousands of tools and repeated works can be done with AI. For example, rotoshape and rotoscopy is something that takes a lots of time. For frame by frame, you can cut off for example, character in a video. So AI can recognize it very well and can quickly do it. So it would be advantage, and something belongs to creativity and uniqueness. I think it would be dangerous for this tool.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. So, Jeff, I would like to know, how might AI shape the future of storytelling and narrative design in animations and also in the comics as well?
Well, just like Mohammed was just saying, AI can't be innovative, right? It's like actor and writer Simon Pegg gave a really good interview months and months ago about this, as they were talking about AI producing film scripts, of course animation are based on, and then comics. They often say, well, that's just the storyboard for the film. So very big crossovers on different ways of storytelling. But with our systems that AI are built on, it's all about finding the average. What is the statistical model that is going to best fit whatever this prompt is? And Simon Pegg famously said, well, whatever it produces, it will be inherently mediocre. Like, it can't be great because there isn't that innovation. There isn't that individual human perspective. There isn't that memory and experiences and the things that make us human for it to draw on. It's just, here's another thing with big explosions, which I love big explosion movies, but I also want to, like, why is this exploding? Why is this cool? What's the humanity behind it? So, I mean, you can have ChatGPT or any other LLM spit out a comic script for you now, and it's probably going to be a little confusing and definitely going to be kind of boring. Like Raphael was saying, with glitches, though, already people are playing with it, which is, you can come up with weird things. So, which another example might be the 1920s with the Dadaist movement. So all through Paris and other countries, they started playing with printed word, cutting up, rearranging the words, seeing what happens when you make accidental collages of images and just rearranging things to see what strangeness pops up. So there's a cool idea of finding it as a tool, but then that little kernel of what is the story has to be something innovative, which of course there's lots of humans who write scripts and they're not innovative. They're just the same story over again. So hopefully we don't just throw everything into AI and just start generating the same films over and over again. Just as we hopefully don't hire a bunch of human writers and have them do Halloween 6, Halloween 7, and Halloween 8, and this the same stories over and over again. We need to have that innovation, which unfortunately can't be found by computing. Since once computers start doing innovation, then the rest of us can just go take vacations, I guess. I don't know what the robots will want to do with humanity. But with narrative specifically itself, you've got to study stories, see why it's interesting, the heroic journey, I guess, since we're talking about stories being repeated. I mean, going back to Gilgamesh and Achilles and all these stories that hit these same spots over and over again, you have to study that and understand it. And why are these the tropes that Joseph Campbell was talking about 2 generations ago? But then also, like, how do you break those tropes? How do you make them more interesting? How do we have a hero who is an anti-hero? Or how do we have a hero who doesn't who does want to be a hero, right? We don't have this moment of questioning the call and having that. So it can tell a story. It's probably not going to be a good story, but if you put a human on top of it, then we can edit it and do those kind of questions into more of an interesting story. And then, of course, on the flip side, if you have a human telling a story, now it can get some inspiration from AI. It can have an AI go back and look over it, and maybe offer suggestions. So this is just a thing we're seeing on as an educator. It's, you can put in whatever essay or script you're looking at and ask for feedback, and it'll give you feedback, which may or may not be good. Just you're spitting out information, it might be good or not. But any feedback you get from anybody might be good or not. Just whatever the background of that person. So ask me advanced organic chemistry questions, and I'm not going to give you very good feedback. But if you ask me narrative questions, I can definitely start talking about characterization and how is the setting tying in with this building of the story. Where's the plot strong? Where is it kind of weak and boring? And we're just really in the infancy of it. So I'm curious to see what I'm doing with it. And I'm sure every creator is going to do something different. Some people will probably never touch it and keep writing on legal pads and typewriters or 1970s Tandy computers that have no internet access, just so they don't get distracted. And then, of course, we'll have the other people who will start off just pitching ideas back and forth with whatever their preferred AI system is. So, like Mohammed said, I'm sorry, it was Isa said, like, what's the product, right? What's the end product? Are we coming up with something good that people are going to be really interested in, or are we just going to spit out kind of mediocre stuff that nobody's going to want to watch?
Yeah, what a nice insight to the topic. So before moving on to the next topic, I think Mohammed has raised his hand in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, Mohammed, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a point following to your speech. Is that right now something like 99% of the scenarios of the Hollywood also is repeated from the previous. By the way, it's a potential of AI to studying the structural rules of storytelling. But about the animation, because it's the infinite world, I think the creativity would has lots of maybe problem, because it would be had a lots of defects, for example, because it's the infinite and there's no rules for those infinite worlds. So I just wanted to add it, and it was following to you.
I think that's great.
Okay, I would like to move on to the next topic since we got lack of time. Next topic of this session is about the ethical and legal considerations in AI-driven animations. So as AI continues to evolve, it brings a lot of ethical and legal considerations and challenges with itself. So the use of AI in creative industries, and especially in the animation industry, raises important questions about data privacy, intellectual property, as Mohammed mentioned, and the potential for bias in AI-driven algorithms, like what we're facing with the use of ChatGPT in our routine life. So in addition, as AI contents become more prevalent, lines between the human and machine creativity blur, which leads to complex code issues. So this topic will address these critical concerns, providing insights into the legal frameworks and ethical considerations that must be taken into account. So I would like to ask you, Isa, about those legal frameworks. Now, what do you think? Are there existing legal frameworks that can address the use of AI in animation, or is new legislation needed?
Well, it depends where you come from. Every country will have their own rules and regulation. There are some countries who are all for copying, and some are not. Sorry, what was that? Sorry.
I mean, what about the case of global frameworks?
Yeah. So, a very interesting point. It's important that you have a local. I stop saying it's important to have a local strategy, because I think it needs to be relevant to the region that those companies or those brands are. It's a very fine balance between building a brilliant product and being a great creative and being a great innovator, because a lot of innovation is based on previous innovation. So, the innovation that we see in phones today are based off of innovation that they see in other phones, and existing technology in place there. However, there needs to be a fine balance between inspiration and copying, copying word. The challenge then becomes when it's so readily available and we're surrounded by so much legal framework that does it inhibit the benefits of AI? And that's a very fine balance that we are still trying to find the answer to. What I would say personally, I would say is that there needs to be a sort of a global agreement around what the framework should look like. And whilst every country has got their own sort of framework and how they do it, obviously in the UK we've got GDPR and how the Data Protection Act protects data. There needs to be a generalized statement about how we process each other's data, how we process each other's information, and what is, and that also links to copyright and how trademarks are implemented, because it's very easily, it could mean that just because we're in one demographic that has a particular framework, that it doesn't apply for another area, that you can actually copy and paste it into another country and build a product out there. So what you want to do is a much more global framework in terms of how it's done. The second part to it is where it's being used for fraudulent activities, and this is quite a critical point, is where it's being used for fraudulent activities, there needs to be a very strict very strict laws in place to protect those who could become victims. And there's two examples here. Number one is of sort of general fraud and deceiving people. I could, someone could pretend to be me and build an AI based on me, and then use that to defraud one of my family members, say get some money off them. But the second one is what we could potentially see in politics, and how nations can be defrauded based on Gen AI and Gen AI content. In my but then at the same time, it can be used in a positive way as well. So people can use Gen AI generated information. Look at the former minister of Pakistan, how he's used Gen AI to create videos for the nation, for his people, but he's in prison. What they've done is they've indexed all his videos, a Gen AI version of him. If you look at the videos, they're very good. They're very good, and people buy into it and buy into. So that's not a form of deception. That's a form of conveying a message. But there is that fine balance, and I think we just don't know the full extent of it. Once we get a better picture of the full extent of it, it's much more easier with other things related. For example, if you look at how you're producing tech companies who are not actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, then that's much more easier. But because the frameworks are so fluid, it's very hard to make a judgment on what it should be and what it shouldn't be. That said, it should be unilateral done. It should be everybody has a common framework that they use.
Thank you so much, Isa. So let's hear it from Rafael. Rafael, how should the industry, I mean the animation industry, but you can just talk about the creative industries as well in a broad term. How should these industries tackle issues which is related to deep fakes, like we are facing it on social media every day, and the potential misuse of AI-generated contents? You can talk about the animation industry first and then go broad.
So I think the main issue that we have with that is that every time something was they tried to regulate it, it didn't work out. I mean, we have copyright laws, but we still have piracy. We still have a lot of people doing whatever they want. So I find it complicated to regulate some of these things. Also, there's an issue with, particularly with the creative industries, and animation. I think as well is you're taking a great tool if you regulate it. I always thought Europe right now they're regulating AI, and some of the AIs that we currently use in America, they cannot use in Europe because of the regulations they have. And when you talk from a business perspective, from a creative perspective, you're taking away those tools from people. But at the same time, where does your privacy ends? I think we like to think we have privacy, but I think for a long time we just forgot that our privacy is already gone since we put everything on the internet and everything is in our phones and they have access to everything we do. I do think that the problem that we're going to see with animation and particularly with creativity, it comes with copying of styles. For example, when AI came out, one of the biggest topics was when you're prompting an image was like make it in Pixar style, so you can make images that look like Pixar animated movies. And no one has came out to say don't do that. Pixar never said that, but I assume soon a company will come out and say this is a ripoff or of our style, of our aesthetic. And the question there starts where, well, is that true? Is that only you? And is what is a copy? Because if you make a painting that looks like Picasso, but it's not an exact copy of a Picasso, are you copying or are you inspired? And I think that's a such a deep question that it's so hard to have an answer to it. My take on that it's that we will need to ease some regulations if we want to move forward in the path of AI. We'll have to embrace the fact that probably the things that we do and we build might be subject of copying, and that's it. That's the world we're probably going to live in. But at the same time, you're on the same playground, so you can also copy, you can also create, you can also do a lot of things. So I think we're moving forwards that direction. But I do think that storytelling always wins, and that is something that I found very valuable. I was hearing Jeff before, and he was talking about the comic industry, and I believe there's a lot of comic books that come out every single day, but some of them make it out, and others don't. And whenever you think about those, is because of the storytelling. They have a strong storytelling with a cohesive character, with a large narrative. I think many people just go crazy about copying styles and aesthetics, and they forget the story. It's what eventually at the end sells more of your story. So I do not fear what the future looks, but I do fear that countries or governments will regulate AI in this excuse to protect people, but they're eventually taking away a very powerful tool that can help them. So yeah, that's my take.
Thank you so much, Rafael. Yeah, I think the boundaries are not clear, and it's so hard to make it a kind of regulation that everyone could apply. So let's move on to the next topic, which is about the collaborations and the strategic partnerships in the AI and animation ecosystem. So the development of AI in animation often requires collaborations between various stakeholders, including developers, designers, researchers, institutions like us, companies, and regulatory bodies. So strategic partnerships are essential for driving innovation and sharing knowledge and ensuring that AI-driven animations meet the highest standards of quality and safety as well. So this topic tries to explore the importance of collaborations in the AI and animation ecosystem, highlighting successful partnerships and discussing how different stakeholders can work together to overcome challenges and seize new opportunities. So I would like to start this topic with you, Jeff. Jeff, please tell me, how are different regions and nations and markets around the world responding to AI-driven innovations in animations? Like, with your background from the USA, how do you see this how do you see these different regions are reacting?
I think just about everybody's in the same boat of what's going to happen, which we'll see what exactly happens with it. Uh, a lot of people are eager to do the investment and seeing what we can do to, much like has been discussed already today, make it more efficient. So if efficiency is a great part of business, we can mass manufacture cloth instead of having to individually weave things. So um, clothes are uh, fairly common today, as 200 years ago, like if you had more than 3 sets of clothes, like you were pretty well off person. Um, so that's happening kind of across the board, and I'm very curious to see what happens individually. Which the investment of making it more efficient then makes it easier to have the individual stories, which I very much appreciated Mohammed's point on talking about the infinite vault of storytelling. So yeah, Hollywood does do the same movie over and over again because they have a set of investors who want to make money back on what they have. And so it's just a good way you get your intellectual property. Batman. It's going to be a Batman movie. It's going to make about this much money. People are going to watching this, and it's really up to the creatives to kind of play within those borders to figure out what cool story can we tell that's going to be a little bit more different, and how keep it fresh despite Batman coming into public domain here in the United States in just a few years. So we'll see what happens with that. That's a whole other question. But getting back to worldwide thing, I think with it being more efficient, with it being a great place for investment, now we can start seeing a lot more stories internationally. So in the comics history, example of this, a little bit AI, but early computer technology making printing much more efficient. This was at San Diego Comic-Con, ran across the table. That was a group of creators from Colombia who had a grant from the government to come up to San Diego and show their local comics. Which one was it was a superhero story, but it was set in the 1500s during colonialism, telling the story of African slaves who were brought over and then escaped from the plantations and fled into the jungle, where there was just no way you could find them because it's a massive, very difficult territory. But there's already people living there, and so you had the influx of slaves who had liberated themselves. You had the native peoples who want to help people who are also trying to fight against the colonialism, but then also worried about their own natural resources that are dwindling, and just this very complicated world building. And then on top of that, these just superpowered individuals who are having really awesome fights. And that's a story, like, that was their story, right? Nobody else had experienced these things, and from their cultural background, told a really great graphic novel that otherwise we wouldn't have seen. So I am very eager to see what innovations can allow people to tell more their own stories as we expand just the capabilities of getting to market.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. So, Mohammed, I would like to ask you the next question. How do you think can smaller animation studios or even independent artists like you and your colleagues can leverage partnerships with AI companies to enhance production capabilities? Like it can be also kind of related to the previous question. Like you can do a comparative study between developing countries and those developed countries that can have these kind of partnerships so easily?
First of all, I should say that it's not smaller company. We are the biggest one. But
I'm just talking about yourself as an independent creator. I'm just saying.
Okay. So for animation, how big are you? Always you're smaller because there are some capacity to improving and some for expanding your capacities. So, for example, in our studios, for a feature animated film, something like 100 or 150% are working on a film. But for example, in Pixar, it's reached out to 1,000 people, for example. And about the experiences also is different. So human resource is different. But we can use AI replacing to, as I told you, the repetitive works to, removing a lots of repetition that maybe the hand should make. But by the way, I remember a year, I think, something like about, I don't know, 15 years or maybe 20 years ago, when digital came to the market. So the analog, for example, cameraman was caring that maybe the video making is going to hell and everything is being destroyed. And someone had some inertia to moving with digital and coming to diving to digital as a new device to helping you to for example saving lots of time for exchanging the video to from the analog frames. So yeah, in that time also somebody has been removed from the circle of the production because they had some inertia to coming and moving with that waves. So according to the AI, I think that the innovative guys and also the intelligent uh, production studios that maybe they're smaller, but they have this intelligence to moving it on over that waves. They can use the AI and they can cover the less amount of employees, um, and like our studio that we are using, as I told you, 100 200 employees, but we can reach out to, for example, a company like 500 employees. So yeah, but we can remove lots of repeat works and leave the creative works to the artist creators. So with this intelligence, yeah, we can use AI as a coverage of our less amount, our less quantity, and reaching to the better qualities. But still there are lots of defects in AI that's we are hopeful to, for example, using AI inside of movement of animation, for example, because something like 60% of a production is related to animation department. But still, we cannot use it very perfectly. For example, when one guy was mentioned about Pixar, for example, Pixar never used motion capture, for example. Why? Because the focusing on one shot, one frame, and creativity each frame by frame, it's the results would be the best quality as Pixar. But we should be waited for the improvement of AI to using more in animation departments, more than just making some suggestion in conceptual images.
So much. Thank you so much. So I would like to ask next question from you, Rafael. The next question is kind of related to us and what we are doing here. So what role do educational and research institutes like us can play in fostering collaborations with that drive innovation in AI and animation? Like, we as a policy research institute, our mission and our vision is to bridging these gaps between, for example, AI companies and those animation studios or whatever. So, what are your recommendations to us and to universities and like research institutions or educational institutions to do so?
That's a great question. I think what you have to do first is I think first is to understand that because of the pace of AI, whenever I see education institutes creating 2 3 year long programs of AI could not be the right way. I think smaller programs is the way. Like you make like an animation career, but then you start producing 3 month boot camps about different tools and how they get improved. And again, this is something very new. Most institutes around the world are not aware. Like that. That's my take when I think about education and how to keep up with the pace because AI evolves pretty quick. And about bridging the AI industries with companies like animation studios, I think one of the greatest examples I have seen around, and it came back in the days when movies started. It was making film festivals. It was making contests. It was making hackathons about AI and movies. And I think with animation, you could do that. You can create, for example, I'm not sure if there has been already in Iran the first AI film festival of animation. So taking the lead and doing that and making the first one inside your policy research, it's something that will definitely spark some creativity around your people, will definitely showcase some work and put you on the scope, because most of these industries of AI are always looking for new creators and people doing new things. And I think one of the beauties of AI is that because it's cloud based, most of it, everything is on the cloud. Countries like Iran, like me, like Argentina, we can start making amazing things. And back in those days, you couldn't do that if you were, I don't know, in LA, Hollywood, or big, industries where movies were happening. So I think fostering small courses and boot camps and in your research institute and other educational institutes to keep the pace of AI is something that for me is very strong. And leveraging this contest and be allowing people to share and creating a platform where creators can thrive, and that way they can get visibility and showcasing what's going on there on that side of the world.
Thank you so much for your insights, Rafael. So, Isa, I would like to ask another question following up the previous one. So, what are the key considerations for creating policies that could balance innovation in AI-driven animations with ethical standards and also cultural sensitivities?
So repeat the last bit again. Sorry.
Okay, I would ask my colleague to put the question in the chat as well. So what are those key considerations for creating policies? Since we are a policy research institute, we can recommend some policies that could balance innovation in AI-driven animations with ethical standards and also cultural sensitivities of each region.
Yeah, I think the first thing I'd say is have an actual expert in the room. It's important to have an actual expert in the room that comes from from the few angles that are the creative side, the legal framework side, the trademark side, but also understanding the workforce side as well. Because if we're to assess how it impacts bottom line staff plus financial impact, then we need to have a holistic a holistic approach to it, and having a stakeholder approach to it rather than a top to bottom approach means that you then are able to capture everybody's thoughts on how it can be executed in the workplace. If you wanted to create a policy, I would go back to what I said earlier, which is you need to have a much more unilateral approach to um, a much more uniform approach to how you create these policies, because everybody needs to understand. Everybody needs to, as they sort of say in the Western world, everybody needs to sing from the same hymn sheet. And for you to be able to do that, you need to have a common framework that everybody is able to abide by. I think in Saudi Arabia, you've got the Global AI Summit there, which is happening in 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, and I think things are going to be happening there. They've got a lot of people from Western tech sector there, but that's just a start. And these institutions need to start speaking to each other. They need to start speaking to the legal operators and how they are able to create policies based on what everybody has a common understanding of. And to then the problem, the reason why I think that's important is because it removes the fear factor attached to it. Because if you have a framework attached to it, then well, you know there's going to be ramifications if something goes wrong or if there's a malpractice, but also there is the people see that there's a benefit to it, and there's a net positive benefit to it. I would say that there is a net positive impact to AI in the workplace and in the world, but and the creative sector. However, where it can go wrong, it can go very wrong, and we need these guardrails in place to make sure that things don't go wrong.
Thank you so much, Isa. So let's move on to the last topic of this session. The last topic is about the cutting-edge AI technologies and their impact on the animation development. So the rapid advancements in AI are transforming the way that animations are produced, as we discussed. These cutting-edge technologies are enabling producers to create more complex and engaging atmospheres, pushing the boundaries of what is possible in animation design. This topic will showcase some of the latest AI technologies being used in the animation production and offering insights into how they are being applied and what the future holds for AI-driven innovation in the animation industry. So I would like to ask this question from you, Mohammed. Do you believe that AI will eventually take over a significant portion of the value chain in this industry? Just to make it clear, I'm not talking about those technical production in the industry. I'm talking about those value chains in the case of economy of this industry.
Look, we have a lots of marketing tasks that's related to animation. For example, data mining. It would be one of the greatest thing in marketing, that you should know which content is suitable for which region. So it's sometimes very boring for the guys which wanted to analyze and making charts and making summarize it and making conclusion for practical results. So I think AI can improve this field very well, and it would be very useful for marketing of an animation. So it's not just belong to production and technical issues. And for example, in human resource, in PR, in marketing, in all of them, it can improve our ability to, classify the data, making summarize, making conclusions, and it would be very useful for management in future. So I think, yeah, in close future. But for example, right now, lots of your students and the guys that are watching us are using AI for making some presentation for their masters. That yeah, so yeah, this kind of usage would be very great for us, for marketing, for PR, for data mining. Is very important for animation platforms. So yeah, yeah. I mean, looking forward to having new features of AI.
Thank you so much. So, Jeff, if you can hear me, please tell me what are those key global trends in the AI and animations and also comics as well that you believe will shape the industry for the next decade?
Yeah, the next decade coming will be very different. I'm eager to see what happens with it. But with the overall global trends, like we've kind of mentioned today, is that efficiency. And previously, you'd have a penciler work on a page for a day, maybe 2 or 3 days. Then you'd have the inker work on it for half a day or a day, depending on complexity of the page. Then the colorist and the letterer and all of these other pieces. But as we potentially get to the point where you could sketch out something for an AI that already has all of your character designs and built in, and your own, you've tailored it to your own style, you could produce a page individually with computer help within hours, minutes, who knows? And from that, we'll I don't want to say a glut of stuff, but maybe we'll start seeing more and more and more material coming out to market, which is very exciting for me as a consumer because I like reading comics and I like watching animation and seeing this. But then also as a creator, also makes me a little bit nervous because then how is my material going to compete with the others? And ideally, we'll have the best storytellers come out on top. But that, of course, isn't always the case since we also have issues like marketing and name recognition and other issues. So I'm now thinking about what Mohammed had said about marketing things, which it is going to be very curious to see what happens to algorithms and then AI feeding off those algorithms to tailor the videos to get your information in front of other people, and then how the algorithms are going to respond to that. To maybe we'll have a big push down the road as people get tired of AI and then want something original. And maybe we'll go back to old style, just watch me draw this by hand and have a flip book animation on slow style. So there's always the push and then the shove and then the push and the shove. So we'll see how the cycles go.
Yeah, thank you. Like a bounce back, maybe. We're not sure yet.
I
So,
mean,
Isa,
photography.
yeah, thank you. Isa, what recommendations would you have for animation producers in developing countries and also their governments, like especially the Iranian government, as we are located in Iran, regarding the use of AI in this industry?
It's probably the advice I'd give to anybody is build the right partnerships in place. I think um, we can all learn from each other. I certainly can learn from what's happening in your country and vice versa in terms of how it can be implemented. But building the right partnerships, social partnerships and social impact partnerships, because there's a common goal here, and the most important part is that we all have access to it. Certainly, one of the things that I'm very passionate about is reducing digital poverty gap between the digital poverty gap, especially with AI coming in. Because what I don't want is people who didn't have access to basic computing standards are going to lose out on how AI can impact them and their jobs. The fact that they can learn much more faster, quicker, at speed, and get jobs is an incredible thing. And we can actually change lives by bringing in the technology into the right hands, especially when economic empowerment is the most important part to it. So I would say, yeah, I think building the right partnerships.
Yeah, thank you. So, Rafael, I would like to go back to you and ask you the same questions I asked Jeff, which is about the potential future scenarios that could arise from the widespread use of AI in this industry. Like, how do you see the future with a futuristic point of view?
I think the main issue that we're gonna have in the future, I see an issue and I see a big opportunity. So the big issue is that we're gonna see a lot of repeated content. We're gonna see a lot of the same stuff because AI is trained on information on the internet, and what's gonna happen when AI start training on the AI it made itself. So we're gonna reach that point. But I do think we're going to start seeing first an explosion of creators around the world. We're going to start seeing more points of creativity that in the past were only focused in certain regions of the world. And I also think that there's going to be a lot of value on handmade and human made things. I think once AI becomes the main standard thing, having something made by humans will be actually very valuable. I do think that. And I do think that the skills that in the future people in this industry and most AI industries will need come from the soft skills. I think for many years we have been told that we needed to learn hard skills, we needed to be engineers, programmers, and a lot of technical skills, which are great, but I think that's the first thing AI can do easily. But when it comes to empathy, communication, leadership, collaboration between people, those are things AI still can do. And I don't see it happening real soon. So I think in the future, in the industry, a lot of the soft skills will be valuable. We're going to see a rampage of new creators coming out. But the main issue is going to be creating new aesthetics or new visions of creativity that are not repeated.
Well, just to let our audience know, we accept the questions from now on because we are in the last 10 minutes of the panel. But before that, I would like to ask Mohammad about how do you see AI impacting the global animation market? Like in the case of markets and in the case of data, how do you see the animation industry will growing in the future? Like AI can help those outcomes, those incomes for animation producers, studios like yours, and bigger companies in the future. How do you see the future of the market?
Yeah, I think I answered before because AI can have lots of usage in data mining in platforms, and in some other also departments like PR and also HR. We can analyze lots of things with AI and automation. Um, um, I think the most important thing, um, you know, according to my previous speech, is that the most important thing in marketing is reaching out to a very direct to the point to, data mining. If, for example, when you make animation, and also let me add a extra thing, making adaptation. It would be also very, very grateful for marketing. For example, if because the main target audience of animation are children, they are not, following up that who made this and from which country is made and what mind is behind. Um, they just would be very fascinating for them. That would be very, familiar and understandable for all the children with different minds and different cultures. For example, how is this kind of adaptation? For example, in dubbing and also for musician, despite all of the intellectual property problems, I'm just focusing on the subject. For example, if you consider that just in China there are several type of accents and several type of languages, it would be very interesting for example, the Chinese children that is sitting in, for example, Hong Kong, that they watch their animation with their accent, and also in for example, in Peking. So I mean, it would adaptation would be very helpful. Data mining would be very helpful. For example, starting the production and starting of writing a script is coming out from data mining, that you know that in for example, specific region they needs, for example, uh, for example, purple um, bunny, for example, bunny, rabbit. For example, purple rabbit would be very, you know, would be very interesting for girl children. For example, -9 years old. For example, in China with a big, population. So if we reach that in 3 years later, for example, in next 2 years, we can make a content specifically for those people that they want this content, would be very helpful for starting a scenario. I mean, it's a sparkle of starting a production is coming out from data mining. So I mean, all of these handles, all of these tools um, can improve production, marketing, and also making scripts from source of marketing. So yeah, it would be very helpful, and as I told you, looking forward to more handles and more improvement of AI for marketing.
Mohammed, so let's ask the same question from Jeff as the last question of the panel. Jeff, what do you think about the market? I'm repeating again, the market of the animation industry will grow in the future or not? You know, we are witnessing that the creative industries market are growing each year, like the music industry market, like the film industry, they are growing each year. How about the animation industry with the impact of AI? Will AI help the market to grow?
I absolutely think so, especially outside the industry as AI is integrated into other industries to improve housing, manufacturing, just all the other living expenses we have. Hopefully, those will go down over the years, and then as those do, then people will have much more discretional funds that they can spend on creative things. So go watch awesome animation films, go buy some comic books, create your own, and then add those to this marketing cycle. So the optimist in me is definitely thinking as technology progresses, things will get better and we'll have more opportunity to live this Star Trek life where we can consume material at our leisure, which hopefully will be more leisure time. So with that growing market, the question is, what's going to happen? Is it going to be like the overall 1900s in the United States with comics where you had DC and Marvel and that was it? You may have had key comic or other tertiary ones at a time, but there's just a dominating force that has the marketing materials to buy hundreds of millions of dollars worth of ads to make sure that people go watch this movie. Or are we going to have such a proliferation of information that people are going to fall back more on word of mouth and just, hey, my cousin made this really cool movie, you should watch it, and then they watch it and they tell their friends this is a really cool movie. We'll just have to see what happens with the overall markets. But yes, it's definitely going to grow, and I am very excited to watch the movies in 2039. I think they're going to be pretty cool.
Thank you so much, Jeff, and thank you so much for your insightful contributions, Jeff, Mohammad, Isa, and Rafael. Thank you so much for holding this event, and we are looking forward to keeping the dialogue. And stay tuned for our future events. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.